very much a blow because my life was on hold. I had already graduated from college. I'd already had my degree. I wanted to start my career. I had my longtime boyfriend. We were ready to get married and start a family. So when I heard that we weren't getting in, I was like, all right, I'm going to train and compete for one more year because I want to go out and do everything I can. I want to finish on top. And I was able to get one last world medal. Unfortunately, it was a silver. And the hard part about that one for me is that the girl that I lost to in the finals, I had teched 10-0 the last time I had wrestled her. But over in that tournament the night before, I got this really bad tummy issue where I felt like I was just like tied up in knots with knives stabbing me. I don't know if I had an ulcer at that time because it was at the end of my college and starting my career. But it happened to me a few times where I would get this incredible pain where I would just be like in a ball crying. And that happened to me the night before the final match. And so my match was in the morning the next day. I didn't sleep the whole night. I was in so much pain. So anyways, but I did end with that medal. And so that's what I did. I gave it one last year before I knew like, okay, this is the next phase in my life. And that was to start my career, get married, start a family. And at that point in my time, I was already in my late 20s. So, I had a really great run. I got to wrestle in high school. I got to compete on the women's USA team for 8 years. And it just felt like a good time to retire. But I didn't retire from women's wrestling altogether. I stopped competing, but that's when I started coaching. So I took a cadet team to Poland. I actually was part of the staff, the coaching staff, when we won the world championships for the senior women's division. So I started coaching internationally with all of our top wrestlers, which was really cool. Like these girls were once my teammates. And then I was able to come in that next year and the year after as their coach. And that's when I started my women's program at Thousand Oaks High School. So I just phased into coaching so I could start my career as well. And that's where I'm at in my life now. It's like, now I've got the time again. I'm ready to get back to it.
Were you tuned in 2004 when women's wrestling was implemented into the Olympics?
I was very excited, thrilled. As a pioneer, you're like, this is all my hard work paying off. Yes. So it was incredible. And I was so excited for the girls who got to go compete in the Olympics because half of them on the team were my teammates. I'm like, but they were young enough. They were young enough to still have their career going and go. Yeah. So I was super excited for them. And I knew that, for Trish and Aksuna and myself and Vicky Zuma, like we all were a part of their journey. We were the pioneers to get them there. So yes, it was quite the celebration.
And then you got to use your wrestling career on American Gladiators. How did you get on that show?
Oh gosh, that was so exciting. So back then, it was early on in my wrestling. It was in the early 90s. My boyfriend, who was actually the wrestling coach training me at the time, he wanted to go compete on the show. So there was a tryout. It was in Reno at the Arco Arena Center is where they were having this tour. That year, they were going around to all the different states and doing a live tour. And he's like, I want to go do it. I'm going to do it. So I'm like, okay, fine. I didn't really watch the show at the time. So I was like, okay, let's go do it. So I went down there and like the day before, I was like, why am I going to go cheer him on? Like, I'm going to bring my stuff too. And I'm going to try out too. So there was about over 400 people there trying out. And they picked 4 men and 4 women to compete in this live show. And unfortunately, my boyfriend didn't make it, but I did. And I was excited about that. And he was too. He was super supportive. And then I did the live tour in the Arco Arena Center with like 8,000 people. And they set up everything down the floor. And it's like, it was really cool to have this huge audience cheering you on. And I won that. So I beat the other girls. And so then after they did their tour across the nation, they chose from their winners to go do the television show. So I got the phone call. We want to bring you in Studio City. We're going to house you for a month. And we're going to do this American Gladiator series. And you're part of it. And during that time, I was turning 21. So it was super fun. Had my birthday down there, met incredible people, got to compete. And I felt like I was like a kid let loose on a playground. It was super fun.
Well, we mentioned earlier that NAIA championships are now officially sanctioned. Before that, it was the NAIA Invitational, but it's the first time women's wrestling will have a sanctioned championship. When you heard that news, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, oh, this is really going to explode now. I mean, girls have so many opportunities. We have all these wonderful, top-notch universities, prestigious universities implementing women's wrestling. But now to know that NAIA is doing this as well, I feel like even when I go start my wrestling program in this area, that's something I can really sell. Like, if you fall in love with this sport, you can do it. There will be a college out there for you. It just really opens things up for women's wrestling to continue. Like for me to continue, fortunately, I was doing so well in our country that I was able to keep training and get that support because I was, always the top 3 in the nation. So if you're not doing that, like what else you have? But now, that's how it was when I was competing. But now it's like anybody, if you love the sport of wrestling and you want to pursue it and you want to work hard, there is something out there for you. There's a college out there that's going to want you to wrestle for them. So I think it's just going to explode women's wrestling.
So where do you think you would have gone if college wrestling or women's college wrestling was around?
Iowa.
You would have gone there? Did you get aware, like, what was your knowledge of wrestling history? How did that come about? Did you learn about the successful programs, the men's programs at the time?
Can you ask me that question again?
Well, yeah. So when you were learning about wrestling, did you learn about some of the successful men's programs like Oklahoma State, Iowa?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So when I was wrestling on the women's USA team, even early on, it was like, oh, the Steiner boys or the Brand boys. Like we knew, and a lot of the guys who wrestled in Arizona, like Townsend Saunders and Sean Sheldon and all these amazing wrestlers. But in those certain pockets, right? So yes, because those boys were always around us. And when we were training, we would see them, we would know them. Les Gutches and his whole college experience. So yes, for the boys who were around us training, because they were trying to make that senior national team, and they were either just getting out of college or still in college, those were the ones that we got to know. We got to know about their programs and all the opportunities that they had. So
who's your favorite wrestler?
My favorite wrestler?
Yeah, I mean, is there someone that you followed and it was your favorite along the line, man or woman? Maybe one of each.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, John Smith. I loved watching John Smith wrestle, that low single, and just that he was a lightweight and always just so scrappy. Loved watching him. Loved watching Kendall Cross because he was unorthodox in the way that he wrestled and you never knew what was going to happen. Who else did I really enjoy? Dave Schultz, of course. I loved watching him compete. I loved being in his presence. Anywhere we were and he was there was always a crowd of people around him. He was just the kindest, sweetest man, and he always took the time to show us moves. In fact, one of my favorite moves to this day is I call it the Schultz tilt because he taught it to me. And in so many of my matches, that's how I scored my points on the mat. But, even with the other countries, everywhere we went, the other countries, all of them wanted to be with him. And he embraced their cultures and he learned the Tai Chi and he learned like everything he could from whoever he was around. And I think he just had a way of making everybody feel special, like they were the most important person in the room, not him. And his matches were always so fun to watch. So yeah, those were some of the guy wrestlers that I really loved watching. And of course, during my time, it was all of us girls that we've been talking about, like Trish, like absolutely Vicky Zumo. We don't hear enough about Vicky Zumo. She was an amazing wrestler. She was on the national team for several years. She has a world medal. She was just this feisty little thing that would come in. And so she came in after us. So I kind of took her in as my little sister. So when I was at the end of my college career, she was finishing up high school. And she was just this cute, spunky little thing. She came with her little short hair, tomboy, so funny. But she wrestled very much just in a different style where she was low and the level changes and just she was like a cat. I mean, like she could just do these things that we hadn't really seen yet. And I just really appreciated her, and I got a chance to compete against her. We went back and forth and who won, and she was always fun to train with. And so, yeah, those were the girls that I really enjoyed watching and competing with and training with.
Let's finish with this. Your advice on how we can continue to support women's wrestling and continue to grow the sport. So we're talking about NCAA programs and more Big Ten programs, more Power Five programs. How do we continue to do that?
I think the best way that we can do that is for all of us women who've ever been involved in the sport is giving back. And that's why I want to get back in the room and I want to give back. We all need to give back at some level, whether it's at the high school level, whether it's at the college level. Clarissa Chun, all these women who are getting hired to coach college programs. That's how we're going to grow the sport. We just need everybody to support it, to give back, to develop it, to get everybody, just at that next level. Better technique, more opportunities. But yeah, it just takes everybody giving back to the sport. I know for me, it's a sport that changed my life, gave me so many opportunities. And I think it's important to always think about how can you give back to such a wonderful sport.
Sounds like you'll be out in Las Vegas for the US Open. So everyone look for Shannon and learn from her. So I appreciate you being on the show. I know this won't be the last time we talk, but thanks for sharing your story and look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
For Shannon Williams, I'm Kyle Klingman. You have been watching The Bader Show.